if you're going to achieve revenue goals, you have to have a roadmap to get that revenue. So how can you do that? Well, Jeff is going to walk us through exactly what it takes to build that roadmap and get your pencil and your pen, your workbook ready, because we want you to do a little bit of math with your actual numbers as we walk through these steps, so that when we're done with this section, you have a roadmap, you have revenue goals, and you know exactly what you need to reach those goals.
All right, thanks, Mike. So let's talk about some of those brief steps that'll help you plot your course so you can be successful. The first one is we need to know, what is your actual revenue goal? How do we determine that to make sure that it's realistic? Next, how many new patients is it going to require in order to meet that revenue goal? Those two things are intimately tied together. And then lastly, how many leads are you going to need? Because every lead that you have doesn't automatically convert into a patient. So we're going to calculate how many leads your marketing company needs to generate. So let's start with the first step. Determine your revenue goals. How would we do that? Well, the first thing we need is to determine our annual revenue, and that typically is done over an average of a few years. We suggest at least 3 years. So in our example here, we see some numbers there for 2018, 19, and 20, some variance. Even 2020 with COVID, obviously the numbers went down some. We take the total of all that, we get 2,355,000. So we divide that by 3, and now we have our annual average revenue. And we see why that's important, because if we wanted to say, I wanted to grow by $1 million this year, that wouldn't necessarily be realistic, because that is over 100% growth. And typically companies just don't do things like that. What's the next step? Well, now we need to set that target, a reasonable target. For our example, we're going to try to grow aggressively because 2020 was such a hard hit year. We're going to say we want to grow by 30%. Well, that would mean that we want an additional $250,000 in revenue. So we encourage you, as we go through this, go ahead and write down your numbers. Do the calculation with us so that you can have some good figures to know exactly what your roadmap looks like by the end of this exercise. So how much is that revenue monthly? We take the 250,000, divide that by 12, you come up with $20,833 a month. Okay, now what do we do with that? Well, now we need to know, how many new patients are we going to need in order to reach that goal? We know what our total revenue is for the 3 years, our average annual revenue, but what's next? We have to determine our average patient annual value. Basically, on average, for all the patients that we have, how much money is each patient going to spend in the practice each year? So how do we calculate that? We take our gross revenue over those 3 years. We take the total number of different patients, not patient visits, but the different number of people that we've actually provided service to. In our example here, we're going to use 1,112. Now that means when we do the math and we divide that out, 2.3 million divided by 1,112, the patient lifetime value here is $2,118. That basically means that for the lifetime of that patient over 3 years, that is about how much they spend. We divide that by 3 to get the patient annual value, and we come up with $706. Now what's next? Notice we now have to figure out how many new patients is going to be required in order to meet our goal. So we take our monthly revenue goal, 20,833, we divide that by our patient annual value, the $706, and we come up with the answer. We need 29 new patients each month, at least, in order to reach our goal of a revenue increase of $250,000. But not every new patient, or not every lead is a new patient. So how do we determine how many leads we need to generate from the variety of different sources that they come from? The way we do that is, let's get the screen here to refresh. We have to look at what our average conversion rate is. So when a lead comes in, let's say you have of 100 leads that would come in, how many of those actually convert into being a new patient? For our scenario here, we're going to use 60%. Yours may be higher or lower. We encourage you to use your number. So what does that mean for the calculation? We take the number of new patients needed, in our example, 29, and we divide that by our conversion ratio. So if it's 60%, that means that we divide by 0.6. If your conversion ratio is lower, let's say it's only 40%, you would divide by 0.4. If we take 29 divided by 0.6, we see that we need then 48 leads a month in order to convert into 29 patients. 48 leads at a 60% conversion rate gets 29 new patients. That will earn us $250,000 based on our reasonable revenue goal. So a good marketing company is going to present a plan that consistently will drive 48 new leads every single month and gets 29 new patients out of those 48 leads. But a great marketing company is going to do more. They're going to increase your conversion rate. So instead of getting you 60% conversions, they might drive it up to 65, 70, maybe even 80%. A great marketing company is going to have automatic follow-up with all of your patients, with all of your leads, to make sure that not just 48 new leads come in, but let's drive that number even higher. And then also, what are they going to do to decrease no-shows? A little bit later in our program, we're going to see how important just one patient visit is.